All right, we are now live. So we're just waiting for two more tasters, Joe Long and Josh Peters. So we're gonna give them a couple more minutes. Joe had a little bit of microphone issues, but should be with us shortly. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so the chat is going. I don't know if it gives me a count of who all's in there. All right, so time on the screen said 8:59. So we are running a little bit late. I apologize. Still working on a couple technical difficulties, but we should be up and running soon. Till now, we're just gonna sit and enjoy a little more of our drinks.
It's like a shuttle launch.
Mm-hmm. This is really just to build suspense for the entire thing. So, you know, everybody's just going to be waiting to hear what these releases are. It was kind of tough. I didn't want to throw in too many just pure curveballs, but I wanted to keep somewhat of a.
Did you have a theme?
Of a theme. So there is a theme. You know, Wade thought the theme was just pure drain pours. Just I was just gonna send him terrible bourbon, and that was he thought this whole thing was a setup just to try to get in.
I think that's a decent guess after a few tastes.
Yeah.
I thought your theme was oak aged things that weren't whiskey.
Yeah.
And I also thought it might be craft whiskeys. So.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
You know, I kind of thought that too about the craft. Some of these things tasted really young, but none of them tasted that small barrel taste that I can pick up on. So there was small barrel, but
there was one that had that taste to me, 102. But I thought that might have been an Añejo tequila. But I agree with you; they were close to craft, but not quite.
102 is a sample I dropped on the towel fuller and didn't get to taste. So.
Well, you're lucky, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's I said the good thing was everyone who put in, you know, notes and everything, I don't think you'll be upset with anything you said, and by what you know, there was nothing where it was like some crazy thing that everyone said was great and then tasted blind and people said was terrible. So I think pretty much everyone will be happy with their reviews and scores. But all right, we got about, let's see, 45 people on now. So let's go ahead and we'll just get started with this thing. And as Josh and Joe jump in, we'll let them get in as well. You know, it's 9:10, so I don't want to keep this thing going for too much longer, about 30 minutes or so. So kind of keep it short and simple. But all right, welcome everyone. I'm Blake from Bourboner. This is the first Bourboner blind tasting. We're calling it episode or batch 001, just to throw in a corny, you know, cliche of bourbon in as well. So I'd like to welcome everyone. Wade, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Wade Woodard, and I think I know it all about bourbon. At least that's the way people see me online as I come across. But hey, I enjoy bourbon, been drinking it for 30 years, and looking forward to seeing what the results are here tonight.
Sounds good. Aaron?
My name's Aaron Goldfarb. I wish I'd been drinking bourbon for 30 years, but my parents weren't that permissive. I'm a freelance writer for Esquire and Punch and Whiskey Advocate, usually on the subject of whiskey and beer and cocktails and bar culture. So Blake generously let me, I guess, test my mettle.
All right, and I see Joe is on. Joe, can you hear us?
I can hear you finally. Sorry about the technical issues there.
Fellas. Oh, no problem at all. No problem. All right, perfect timing. We're just going around with introductions. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Joe Long, and I do booze stuff for Uncrate.com and Uncrate Magazine. And man, this was really fun. Most intimidating thing is whether or not I decided that the good thing was something really terrible or vice versa.
I gave away a little bit. I said, I don't think anyone's going to be really disappointed. You'll probably be more, you know, more proud of your reviews than anything. So just to catch everyone up, for those who are watching, here's how it works. So I put 6 samples. Every sample is from a bottle I've purchased. You know, there's no giveaways, no free PR samples, nothing. It's either bottles I purchased at retail or from other other collectors, traders, bourboners, whiskey geeks, that kind of thing. So it's all, we're trying to keep this thing as unbiased as possible. So each sample was given to the reviewer to taste blind, and here's all they knew, that it was most likely whiskey. And even at that, it could have been a little more of a curveball. We gave them a little bit of scale. So if you check out bourboner.com, the latest post, you'll kind of see what that scale looked like. Each individual taster submitted their reviews, and here we are tonight. We're going to do the live reveal and just kind of talk about things for a little bit, and what we thought, what we didn't like, all of that stuff that goes into a blind tasting that makes it fun. So to get started, I'll kind of give you the theme. So everything is, so we have 4 of the 6 bottles that are 10 years old. They're all 8 to 10 years old, around that 100 proof. And what I wanted to do with this tasting was taste old versus new. So a big thing on the secondary market is people paying a lot more money for an older bottle, whether it was, pre-fire for that distillery, or just when it used to be an 8-year age statement, that kind of stuff. People pay a lot more money for the older bottles. So what I wanted to see was, taste-wise, is it worth to pay more money for these older releases of each bottle? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take my camera off now and just go ahead and show you the 6 bottles that were in this tasting. So here we go. So here's all of them. So we had a new release of Henry McKenna 10-year. We had an old release, which is a pre-fire release of Henry McKenna 10-year. It's from '96. And then we had a 2016 Michter's 10-year. I believe it was 2010 of a Michter's 10-year, but it's bottleneck number 2345, and it's one that was bottled in Bardstown, not Louisville like the new ones. And then we have new Wild Turkey 101. In true Wild Turkey fashion, whenever I opened this bottle, the cork broke and disintegrated, so I had to put it in a different bottle. But this is a Wild Turkey from 8-year age statement from '94. So that's what's in the full lineup. Before we kind of dive into which is which, I'll just kind of go around, and any surprises about what was in the lineup from any of the tasters, any of these bottles that you've tried before and liked, and thinking you gave them a good score or may not be, or just any thoughts from y'all?
I'll go first.
Wade, you're kind of chuckling, so I'm going to.
Man, I love that older Wild Turkey, and boy, I didn't like any of this in his tastings. I tell you what I did is I take a kind of an average bourbon and compare it against that and see if it can beat what I consider an average bourbon. And in this case, I used something that fit right in this profile that you're tasting. I used Jim Beam Black that still had the 8-year-old age statement. I think it's 90 proof. And I was trying to taste these to see if they were better than Jim Beam. And so that was kind of my standard I was using. And boy, I didn't think any of them were.
Jim Beam's going to be happy about that news, I'm sure.
No, they dropped the age statement, so it's no longer the same listing.
Well, I do a similar thing, but with Wild Turkey 101. And the funny thing is, my original notes, I had Wild Turkey 101 for 425, and then I second guessed myself.
I'll go ahead and tell you, you would have been incorrect on that one.
Is that the Dusty?
So 425 is the old Henry McKenna.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So let's go down the line. I think that'll be interesting to see. So
can I ask you quickly?
Yeah.
What was your numbering system?
Oh, so well, I read in this I forget what it was. It wasn't even about whiskey tastings, but it was about how if people, sometimes you can create a bias about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or A, B, C, D.
Okay.
So the numbers are actually all birth dates of family members.
Okay. Gotcha.
That was how I could randomize it and still make it somewhat so I could keep track of it whenever
Gotcha.
I'm putting labels on everything. Yeah, so that was, I didn't want to do A, B, C, D, just, I mean, I'm sure it's a very small issue, but I read it and I said, well, why not? We'll just try to keep this thing as anonymous and oblivious as we can. So, so here we go.
Exception.
Yeah.
When you give someone a sample number 1, I think they do tend to think it's the best.
And then, because I didn't want to give them to you guys and say, hey, taste them in this order, because I always feel like in blind tastings, when that happens, you're just assuming that the guy's going to throw in, you know, the big dog at the end. And I've just seen it happen a couple times where it's like, all right, make sure you do sample X last. And I'm thinking, oh man, this must really be good. So I just kind of wanted to throw them out to y'all. Taste them whatever order you want to. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. So that was it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we have.
did you?
I was just going to say, did you guys do all 6 in one sitting, or did you split it up?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I did it in numerical order the first time, and I think my palate got scorched because I did it in reverse order the next day just to finalize my notes, and I got completely different tasting notes, completely crazy tasting notes. You'll see if he reveals them, but it was kind of eye-opening. I got a lot of new flavors and things I hadn't before. And I still have some left, so I can taste them with you.
I do too. I did 3 one night and 3 a couple nights later with the hope that I wouldn't scorch my palate. And I did feel a little fatigued when it came around to the 3rd one anyway, but I have some left as well. It'll be interesting to have a little sip once we know what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was a little worried about with everything being high proof. You know, everything, the lowest is the Michter's 10-year, which is still 94 proof. So, Wade, did you taste all at once, or did you?
Well, I only had 5.
Go back.
Yeah, I tasted them all, and I went back the next night and tasted again. And my notes actually kind of lined up over both nights. So.
Wade on the final sample had to get a straw out and go in the grout of his tile to get that last little flavor.
You wrap them up in cellophane, really good.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the reveal. So our bottle number 425 is the old Henry McKenna. So that's a Henry McKenna that was distilled in 1986, bottled in 1986. 10-year, 100 proof. What's interesting about the Henry McKenna is I've had some older bottles of that I love, and I opened this one because I wanted it to be open new for the tasting. I didn't necessarily love it. And it kind of shows in the ratings on this one. So next we have
what was
1102.
Can you say what the combined rating was of that? Did you calculate it?
Yeah, so the combined rating is 78.25.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good idea. This is also this is trial and error too for this format since it's the first one. So I'll give the overall rating with each one as we go through. So the next up is the 1102, which is the new Henry McKenna. So barreled in 2007, bottled in 2007. The overall rating was 81.5.
Wow, really?
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Next, we have 224, which is the 2010 Michter's 10-year. Neck label is 2345. This is, let's see, 82.5, which is actually the highest combined score. Any thoughts on that one?
Because the 224 is?
Yes, 224 is Michter's 10-year, the 2010. See, this is a bottle that I just loved, and I'm thinking this is just going to run away with the show.
I'll tell you what, it did for me. The 224 was by far and away the best thing that I tasted. It was the one where I wished that I had more of it, honestly. So
yeah.
It's interesting that you felt the same way, but that overall it still wasn't terribly high. So who brought it down?
Well, I gave it.
I think I gave it a 78.
And that's a 72. So.
Wade brought that one down. So let's.
I gave it a 78 though. I thought it was. My notes were 2-year-old craft whiskey or a tequila. I get a ton of nail polish on the nose.
Yeah, so you got young craft, which is interesting because I've heard rumors that this 2010 is actually a much older than 10 years even. So it's funny how that's still. I kind of want to pour some now. But
I mean, I think the nose is super hot in ethanol. I think the taste is actually good and no finish, but I mean,
I got it.
I mean, the nose is like
sorry,
a 50 to me. So the taste actually brought up to a 78. Go ahead.
That brought it with
I'll give you that. I thought that the nose was, I just smelled mostly alcohol, maybe a little bit of oak on the nose, but the taste to me was a lot of caramel and brown sugar, and the finish was just like candy. And if you can't tell, I liked it. So I'll take your bottles, Wade, if you want to sell them. This was excellent.
I agree. I agree with your notes. I get the same thing. I just dinged it a lot more for the nail polish nose.
Yeah, see, I get that candy, like almost like a cotton candy taste. I mean, it's just it's sweet and a little fruity, but it just has like really good caramel and butterscotch to me. I like that everybody's going back to the sample bottles now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was a really interesting one. All right. So let's move on to the next one. So that was 224. So 314 is Michter's 2016. So Michter's 10-year 2016. And this is one that really got knocked by a lot of people as just falling off the radar. So I wish Josh was here. So Josh brought this score up a little bit. The average was 81.5, and Josh rated it a 90. So I wish
that was my highest score too.
Was it? Hold on. Okay.
I think I gave it an 85.
Yeah. So you gave that one an 85. Yeah. So you liked the 2010. Now, are you Old Forester 1920, Old Forester Birthday Bourbon? You a fan of those? Because that's what this reminds me of.
I love the 1920.
A lot of the Old Forester.
Yeah.
Okay.
Birthday bourbons year to year. I can take it or leave it, but the 1920 I stocked up on for sure. I don't think this is exceptional, but I do like it.
Wade, now I just got to read Wade's guess on what this may be. On what whiskey do you think this could be? His answer: drain pour. So,
so no one's got a correct guess so far.
No correct guesses, and he's not even here to take credit for. Well, I'll get to the next one. Wade, what were your thoughts on league? Yeah, on the 2016.
Man, I thought it was tasted artificial, which Michter's has long been accused of adding flavor packets, so I think there was something off with this one.
That's what I told him.
I get that tasting note on an upcoming one though. The artificial taste.
All right, so let's move along to the next one, which is 102, which I actually realized after the fact. November 2nd and October 2nd are two mutual birthdays, but I probably shouldn't use them so close for this. So 102 is New Wild Turkey 101, which I actually refer quite a few people to.
Me too.
But then, looking at it, it got the lowest score out of all of them, which based on price, it should have. So that is kind of interesting that happened, but it was by far the lowest score, but it also had the smallest margin. So a lot of these, we had the high score would have been an 86, the low was a 60, high score 90, low score 72. With this one, the margin was 80 to 72, which I thought was pretty interesting that, even though nobody really liked it, nobody really hated it either. Any thoughts on that? Let me pull up a few.
I do proclaim I like Wild
One
Turkey 101, but I usually use it for cocktails, which maybe that's a smart move.
Maybe that's just where it should be.
I really didn't like it. I mean, it was light to me and like non-offensive, but it was really low on flavor, and it honestly reminded me a little bit of mellow corn for some reason. Maybe because I had that previously. Obviously, it's got a little bit of age on it, and it's in charred barrels, but it didn't do much for me. It was the lowest rating that I gave.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, I put watery, very young, vodka-like ethanol. Didn't like it.
Okay, that was a sample that I broke, but I just bought a handle of it. Total Wine in Houston is selling this for $29.50 for a 1.75 liter. I had a pour of it last night. I like the stuff, so.
Yeah, which I mean, I've actually poured this bottle a few times since sending out the samples, and I'm like, I can sit around and drink this a little bit, but I don't know. It's usually like the second or third pour. It's not the first pour, so that could play a role as well.
Yeah, I'm actually enjoying it right now, but I hated it when we tasted it. I don't know.
After a few drinks, it doesn't taste so bad, but
I think it also is the perspective, and like you said, with blind tasting, is kind of the whole point. Is I know for me, the bottom shelf stuff that I like is stuff that I like even more because I know it was cheap. And so it's kind of like, oh, look what I found, and this is great. But when you go blind with it, it's a little bit different, and that's evidenced in a few of these ratings.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right, so the final one, and the one that puts a slight dagger to my heart, is 927, which is a 1993 Wild Turkey 8-year. So I love Dusty Wild Turkey, and I thought this was just going to steal the show. I actually put my own birth date, 927, on the sample for that very reason, and it did okay. It was it got a 78.67, which is 4th out of 6. So it just did okay. Now, any other older Wild Turkey fans that were a little bit surprised by this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm drinking from my buddy Rare Birds, Glenn Cairn.
Oh, there you go.
That's preeminent Dusty collector of Wild Turkey.
The only, the home where Wild Turkey lives. And maybe, I have noticed some differences with some like the mid 80s Wild Turkey to the 94, but I still thought this was a pretty good bottle when I was drinking it. We got, let me pull over to the tasting notes real quick. So let's see. So that the Dusty Wild Turkey got actually Wade said best in the batch. Still not that good though. So
I think that was my number 2.
Yeah. So then Aaron had caramel, brown sugar, toasted coconut, which is all stuff I really get, but then he hit it with the harsh finish. So that kind of threw it away. Sweet nose, tasted like
I also thought it was a bottom shelf.
Yeah. I was gonna leave that out. I wanted to, which actually, Joe, you are correct. When it was selling in 1994, it was a bottom shelf. So in a way, it was a bottom shelf bourbon.
It tasted like something dusty to me, and it's because recently I had tasted some Ancient Age from the 80s, and it had that similar kind of like corn kind of thing going on, which may be attributable to how corn was at that time. But I too am a fan of Dusty Turkey, and this changed my mind slightly. So I did, unfortunately, it wasn't great.
Yeah. Which,
it was probably the most interesting and unique of the 6 at the least, though.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it was. And it was kind of
there you go, straight from the bottle.
Yeah, I got to pull a little small sample. I don't know. I still like it.
I'm enjoying it right now.
You know, it's good, but yeah, picking blind samples is always interesting. I wanted to keep some kind of format where it wasn't just throwing a ton of curveballs. Kind of kept, you know, a similar trajectory between age and proof and all of that, but you also make it interesting. And not that dollar amount should be brought in on everything, but you know, you got a bottle that sits on the shelf for, well, Wade bought it for $30 for a gallon and a half, pretty much, and it actually ranked the lowest. So, but then you got some other bottles like the Henry McKenna 10-year, which let me just give you the final rankings of where we ended up on all of these. So starting at the lowest with 76 average points was Wild Turkey 101, the new version. With 78.25 points was Henry McKenna, the old version. And I think that's a little bit more about the single barrel profile than anything else. I think with a better barrel that could have scored a little bit higher, but maybe I'm just being biased. In third place is, in fourth place with 78.67 points is the old Wild Turkey from 1993. So Wild Turkey 8-year from 1993. In third place was the new Henry McKenna. In second place is the 2016 Henry McKenna, or 2016 Michter's 10-year. In first place is the 2010 Michter's 10-year. So Michter's actually takes the top 2 spots.
Wow.
Which I was not expecting at all. I thought maybe the 2010 would be up there, but I thought the Wild Turkey 8-year was going to be one of those top 2 spots. So it is kind of interesting to see, and you know that's why we taste blind.
Did you think any of these were going to score in the 90s?
To be honest, I thought the 10-year Michter's 10-year would. I thought that was one
it did
that,
for me.
You know, it has a little bit of that rumored to be Stitzel-Weller behind it. I don't know if it actually is or not. I thought that one probably would score in the 90s, but you know, that's tasting blind. And that one didn't have a huge disparity between the two, so I don't know. It was interesting. We'll just kind of go around, kind of wrapping this up. Any surprises? Anything you thought you scored right or wrong? Wade, we can start with you.
Sure. I just kind of throw out. I did a blind tasting with a group of Houston guys, 15 tasters, 21 bottles. They turned in 3 reviews a week for 7 weeks until it was done. And I had a Michter's in there, and I had a current Wild Turkey 101 in there. I think the Wild Turkey finished around 6th in that blind tasting. They did a lot better than ours here today.
Yeah.
And the Michter's that I had in there was a 2014, and it finished like 14th.
Interesting.
So
this one did a little bit better.
Different results.
But yeah. Joe, what about you?
Yeah, you know, I am definitely surprised that the Wild Turkey rated lower for me. I'm trying it again now. It's still good, but I still get kind of that different corn flavor that kind of isn't incredibly appealing to me. Yours is definitely a bit of a surprise. I think I've always thought of M10 as a really good bourbon, but probably a little overrated. And I would at least say that as far as the 2010 concerned, I loved it. And to search for a bottle at this point.
Oh, did we lose him? Did we lose him?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Okay,
Hello.
sorry, it kind of froze for a second. But
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Aaron, what'd you think?
Yeah, my thoughts are similar. Really surprised by the Wild Turkey. I would have said I really like Current 101 and Love Dusty. And I gave Dusty a pretty good score. I think it was my second best. I thought I really did not like McKenna, and I gave those good scores. And I agree. I always thought Michter's 10 was pretty overrated, and I gave those pretty competent scores as well. So pretty eye-opening, as always.
Yeah, yeah. Which, you know, that's why blind tastings are here. So, and that's kind of why I wanted to get this group together. You know, I kind of know all y'all from different places in the bourbon world, but I wanted to get a group who I knew didn't really care about what would come of the tasting. They just would give honest opinions about it. And so that was the whole goal of this. So I appreciate you guys taking a part of it, kind of being the guinea pig, so to say, for this first blind tasting. So thank you for being a part of it. And I really appreciate it. So if, you know, we'll go ahead and post some scores up, post everything else. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. But for now, appreciate everyone tuning in and taking part. And we'll go ahead and call it a night.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Blake.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.